See, over the last few years, we have started taking a number of steps to enhance the digital experience of the railways for the passengers to give them a wow feeling. We are providing public Wi-Fi at all the railway stations. We have now currently 6,020 plus railway stations which have been provided with this facility. We, for the first half an hour, it is free with 1 MB speed. So that is a lot with the passengers, and the passengers are using, general public is using this facility. The response has been very, very good. I mean, pre-COVID, of course, today we have got less football at these stations due to less number of trains running. Pre-COVID, there were 2.9 crores people were using this facility per month. And there are a number of stories in which you also must have read, come across, where people, some of the boys have used it to clear their public service commission examinations. The auto rickshaw driver were at the station bringing their kids to to have the online access to various classes, etc., various syllabus, etc. So, and not only this, of course, it can offer a number of other services which we can, even the e-governance services which people are using. We have set up kiosks at 200 railway stations, mainly in the rural parts, where we have set up these kiosks, and they are manned kiosks, and people can access them and use them for accessing the e-governance facilities of the railways. Very closely linked to this, we have now gone in for this, this COD, content on demand. This service will be available to the passengers in the moving coaches while they are on the run. So this, some will be paid, some portion of the content will be paid, some portion will be free, that can be downloaded, and people can view movies or other content on their personal devices. Then another thing what we are doing for the passengers, Mr. Lohia talked about the video analytics. We are providing video surveillance system, CCTV cameras at all the stations. We have already provided at 270 major stations, another 756 major stations. Total of 756 major stations are targeted to be completed by March 2022. This will go in a long way to provide improve passenger security at the railway stations. We will have face recognition systems, and then video analytics will be built in, so that the passenger faces can be compared with the record of known law offenders. So these are some of the things which Indian Railways is doing at a fast pace, to improve the passenger experience at the stations.
Sure. I think that's all that you're saying is really fascinating, sir. I mean, we are used to get content on demand on the flights, but once we start getting that on the trains, that will be like a fantastic passenger experience.
Yeah.
So that brings So that brings me to Mr. R.S. Khurana, CMD of MRVC. So, sir, the Mumbai suburban is the lifeline of that city, and MRVC plays such an important role in kind of building up that system. So my question to you, sir, is that MRVC's main line of business is the construction of all these challenging railway lines through the paths and difficult areas of Mumbai. So during the pandemic, what kind of challenges was faced by MRVC, and what steps has MRVC thought through and put in place so that in case there is a third wave, the work and the progress that happens is not affected?
Good afternoon, Mr. Meshram, my friends Chawla, Mr. Lohia. See, MRVC is not only into construction. We sort of propose investments for the whole suburban system. And we are specializing on suburban train systems, suburban railways you can call. This is there in Mumbai since long, but I'm sure that with need, in next decade or so, this should come out in many other metros. You see, railways has a right of way around metros. And instead of having a dense metro with crush loads of people in it, it is better if you have good suburban trains and develop suburban centers so that the city itself spans out, right? And such a development would help us naturally against any other similar pandemic. Because if the city density is less, these sort of pandemics would be controlled much more easily. Now, coming to your question regarding our work experience and how are we going ahead with it. In fact, in April itself, based upon the information available, we had issued a schedule of protocol for office and separately for site. So at site itself, we set up the temperature measurement instruments, the social distancing, and in our labor camps itself, they were sort of, the contact was cut off from outside initially. Then only 1 or 2 persons used to go, and proper social distancing and other COVID appropriate behavior was ensured to see that it doesn't spread out in the labor areas. The pandemic does not affect there. And we were rather, successful with it. The main problem here is that during lockdown, the availability of material which was to come from the market, that was impacted. Other than that, the labor groups which were available with us, the material which was available, we carried out our works with that. In fact, many of our works are done during blocks, that is when the railway trains close down. So we could do those works in a better way, and we really could do much more than normally. Like in a year, if I say I take 900 units of blocks, this time we could take 1200. So that work we could do. Now here, you'll have to see that in case other waves come. So you see, social distancing, the various protocols, they are all available now. People know what to do, right? Only thing is that in time, you have to assess, and before that time, for your construction work, you have to make the material ready with you. You'll have to procure the material plan, the material which will be required during that time, that will have to be procured in advance and kept there with you, so that in case of disruption in market supply, that doesn't affect. Which are in addition to various protocols which have already been set up. This is one more thing which we'll have to keep an eye on.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Actually, what you said is actually just indicates that even in a crisis, there are actually railways kind of comes up to speed, and it stands the metal, and it it uses this difficult times. The railwaymen always rise up to the occasion, and this is a great example that you have mentioned. that in MRVC construction has happened. Even in the main railway line network itself, a lot of renewal of track, etc., which was pending, has been completed. So that's really a very exemplary thing that the railways as an organization has done. So that brings me back, sir, to Mr. S.K. Lohia, the MD and CEO of IRSDC. So, sir, one thing that is always there in the station development program is that every city is unique. India is a country of diversity, and with the task of developing railway stations across the country, and especially in a PPP mode, how should the station be developed? How should the commercial development happen so that it kind of merges along with the city? And this sounds like a huge and challenging task. So, to bring in a very transformative change and to streamline this, is there an initiative that IRSDC has taken up so that this can be kind of streamlined and it can be kind of fast-tracked?
Thank you. I think it's a very, very important facet of the entire station development. As you very rightly said, that the station development to be harmonious with the surrounding development and meeting the future needs, etc. So, number of agencies with whom we have to coordinate for each station is around 20, especially in bigger cities, 20 to 25. So, bringing all of them on board and having some kinds of roadmap for how the station is to be designed. So, we had a facilitation done by the Union Cabinet, where the Union Cabinet had approved that IRSDC, while approving its plans under Section 11 of the Railway Act, shall consult the urban local bodies / other statutory authorities so that the development in railway land is harmonious with the surrounding development, generally following the national TOD policy, and no change of land use is required pan-India. So this was a great facilitation, and it essentially gave the deemed special planning authority status also to IRSDC. And whenever we are doing this development, so we needed certain guidebooks, codes, manuals, etc., as to how this entire TOD policy is to be implemented on the station area, how exactly the station development has to happen. There might be heritage issues, there might be issues of green building, how the architectural aspects have to be taken into account. Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs had issued form-based codes. So that was advisory to the states, but we wanted to implement that in the station development so that the Railopolis, which will come out of the development, is truly a 24/7 mini smart city, which is safe for women, children, old age people, everybody 24/7. It's a live city as you see abroad and also some places in India. So we have come out with codes for station development, which includes form-based codes, which includes the architectural codes, which includes the codes which will essentially govern the commercial development, the green building norms. So there's a green building code, and there is also a code for railway heritage. This is, I would say, absolutely a path-breaking initiative that we have taken. It is historic in the sense that for the first time in 168 years of history of Indian Railways, we'll have our own codes governing the commercial development in railway land. We had been so far doing our operational buildings construction, but commercial development will be governed through these codes. On 19th April, we had the inaugural launch for the national consultation, which was chaired by the CEO Niti Aayog, Chairman Railway Board, and the Secretary Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. We had about more than 1,000 delegates all over the country and world. We have completed our various rounds of formal consultations with the National Institute of Urban Affairs, Town and Country Planning Office, the DDA, MMRDA, Institute of Town Planners, the Institute of Urban Designers, and all other such stakeholders as far as heritage code is concerned, various heritage experts, INTAC, etc. And as far as green building is concerned, various green building experts. So our consultation process is over, and within next 10 to 15 days, we will be coming out with this final version of the codes. not only that we have come out with these codes, so we have done this consultation with also the developers. So earlier they were part of the RFP document which we were issuing. So now instead of this being written as part of the RFP document, so they'll be available as codes, and the developers can do the development as per these codes. So we have already issued the occupation certificate also for a building. Not only approved the building plans, we also issued the first ever occupation certificate for the Gandhinagar project, the hotel, and the hotel has been commissioned based on the occupation certificate issued by us.
Thank you, sir. I think, the development of a code will actually streamline such a complicated process, because if a broad kind of a framework is established, given that, as you rightly said, there are 20 stakeholders involved, a code will definitely be of a great help. So that brings me to Mr. Chawla, sir. Is that one, you have explained on, what digital initiatives have been done for passengers. But my next question to you is that what digital initiatives have been done for railway operations themselves? Is there some learning that has happened? Are there some new initiatives that are being done to digitally transform the kind of railway operations, how it is being handled right now?
Railway operations have changed drastically over a period of last few years. You must have seen the old lever frames, the cabins from which the leverman used to, for setting a route of the station. Route means that which route will the train take, whether it will go on the loop line, whether it will go on the main line. So setting up that point or a lowering of the signal, that used to happen from that lever. Now you have a computer-based interlocking there. So, now out of all the stations which are there on the Indian Railways, approximately 6,700 stations or so, only around very few stations are left which have got this system intact. So all have been replaced by computer-based interlocking. By click of a mouse, the station master is able to set the route. It not only lowers the staff cost, but then the efficiency of the operations is also increased tremendously. The line capacity is increased. Line capacity means the number of trains which can run between in a section. That also increases due to this. Now, a recent initiative which Indian Railways is taking is of setting up of a high-speed mobile communication corridor across the railway track, along the railway track. You must have heard that recently a 5 megahertz band in the 700 megahertz spectrum has been allocated to the Indian Railways. Now, this will be used for setting up a LTE or a 4G network. On this, on the back of, on this, there will be a train collision avoidance system working there to prevent the train accidents, to prevent any collision occurring or a driver crossing a signal at red. So all this information of the signals, of the drivers, of the trains will be transported over this mobile communication corridor to a central control office. Then this will also facilitate emergency communication between the driver, guards, station controls, station master, and the control office. So the probability of any driver crossing a signal at red and will not be there, because as soon as he will try to do it, the automatic there will be automatic stopping of the trains. A braking will occur and that will stop the trains. Another thing which we are doing in the operations is to streamline the maintenance practices. A predictive maintenance is being introduced, like Mr. Lohia said, predictive housekeeping. This is predictive housekeeping of the assets of the railway assets. I mean, the dynamic as well as the static assets. We have got track to measure the rail temperatures. We will be having sensors, and all these sensors will then be connected to a data center, our data center, which is there, Railtel's data center, where we are building up an analytic platform, a telemetry platform, which will get the inputs from all these places and then give alerts or signals to take corrective action. Similarly, for the water levels, measurement of water levels. As soon as the water level will go beyond a particular fixed level, automatically alarms will be generated. For the signaling equipment which is placed on the railway lines, the signals which is all these are being analyzed, that is already started, are being analyzed, and then the alarms are sent so that corrective action can be taken before the condition of an asset deteriorates. So IoT is being now extensively used on the railways for train operation. Similarly, running of the coaches. A wheel is running track is generating a lot of data. Now, till that data is collected, analyzed, you will not, you cannot prevent derailment or an accident from occurring. So this is what is being now done, that the condition monitoring of the various assets is being done so that corrective action can be taken in time. Wheel profile equipment, hot box detectors, which will not be possible humanly to do it. So digitization is making this all happen, and this is going to streamline the railway operations in a big way.
Thank you, sir. I think, as you rightly said, all these methods of IoT and detection would be critical, especially in an environment when Indian Railways and the Ministry of Railways is thinking of bringing in private trains, and these kind of neutral devices which have a very one truth, and there's just one version of the truth. It will be very critical in kind of bringing these kind of new innovative introductions into the railway system. Mr. Khurana, sir, with your permission, I'll just pose my next question to Mr. Lohia, because apparently he has a meeting with the CRB, and then I'll just come back to you. I hope that's okay. So Mr. Lohia, sir, one other question that I have in my mind is this concept of user fee, because so far station development has always happened on the basis of the commercial revenues that the developer can bring in, and the developer has been asked to develop the station building at its own cost, and then the financials of the developer always worked out from the commercial development that the developer had to do. Of course, it had its own challenges because the financing and the bankability of such projects, and especially now in the COVID scenario, the stress on the real estate situation could have kind of led to that model not actually taking off. And the user fee is a very interesting concept. So could you speak a little bit about it and share about that?
User fee, if you see any infrastructure which has been developed either in India or abroad involving private sector investment, this is one of the important funding mechanisms, because without this, the uncertainty of revenue puts a lot of apprehensions in the mind of lenders. And unless and until the lenders are comfortable, your financial close of the project may not happen. And consequently, you will not even have a good number of parties who will be ready to participate in your RFQ or RFP. So the competition will be much lesser. Real estate is highly volatile, and infrastructures depending only on only real estate are amenable for all kinds of challenges. That if the real estate sector, like it has happened in case of COVID, so whatever uncertainties are there, so they will be reflected in your infrastructure creation. And infrastructure creation definitely cannot wait. So that is why we are creating the infrastructure. So user charges was decided that this will be one of the important funding mechanism. It has gone through certain levels of approval, and some more approvals are now remaining. Because of the user charges, we have seen a good amount of competition in the market. In fact, for the 5 RFQs which we have floated for Sabarmati, Nagpur, Amritsar, Gwalior, and Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Terminus, so we had excellent participation. In fact, there were 4-5 international funds who have also participated. So definitely it is a very, very important component, and that will further increase the lendability and hence the participation from the private sector, which we are looking forward to eagerly.
Thank you, sir. I believe that you might have to step out because of your meeting with the CRB, and of course, please do continue to be there. And if we have a chance, we'll pose another question by any luck if the CRB meeting gets a little postponed. I'll come to Mr.
So thank you. I will just keep logged on. I am going to be on way to Railway Board. So in case if there is anything and if I can answer, so I'll take the questions while on way to Railway Board. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, sir. So I'll come to the CMD of MRVC, Mr. Khurana. So, sir, the question that I have in my mind is that, with the role of MRVC, and of course, you've explained how you have kind of thought through and planned how to tackle all these COVID situations. But from a digital transformation strategy, are there any new things that have happened within MRVC, the way you have functioned? Is there some difference that has happened, some new innovations that have been brought into the organization? You're on mute, sir.
See, in MRVC, we were always earlier working on EOffice that had started. For HR, we have a separate module, and similarly for accounts also. So these were the factors. They were already working as in digital form. Now, during this pandemic, what has happened is the EOffice has sort of settled down. It was sort of, you have to work in it, and it's being made regular use. And one more important, then another thing which is there across everyone is what we are doing now. The meetings have been digitized. Zoom, Cisco, WebEx. So they have taken over the meeting space, and it has been there across everyone. Like right now we are doing it. In our place also, the regular meetings were held here. That is there across everyone. Specific to MRVC, we have got a project management information system, which we have been working on, and it will be launched sometime in July or August. It has been trial run has been already been done, and we will be launching it in August. Now, this particular system is sort of specific to our way of working in MRVC. It has been sort of the various modules are there for project monitoring, for bid monitoring, for bid process monitoring. All these, they have different modules, and all these modules are being integrated, and the whole system will be now digitized, right from the field person who will be sending the progress reports digitally to my dashboard, and they will reflect on my dashboard in real time, whatever it says. So that's a program which we have been working on. And I think by August, we should be able to have it fully in place. So that is one of the things which we have come. This is sort of this digitization. We were already working on it, but then this has sort of, pushed it more. You see the need for it, and you take more interest in it, and phase out the old working system and come on to this system. So that has sort of helped us, and even the quarterly monitoring will be by drones. Regular feedback from progress will be by tablets and laptops from the field, and the whole thing the information will be given to the persons who require in real time. That information will be available. So the whole system will be switching over to digital system by maybe maximum by August.
Sure.
I mean, trial runs have been done, but only thing is we have to implement it now.
Sure. Great, sir. I think, the use of all these sophisticated tools for project management, where we hear of integration of the time, the money, you have these traditional packages that are used like Primavera, etc. But as time progresses, I think the integration of the various elements coming together just makes project management that much more sophisticated, and people at the CMD level can then actually take decisions which are better informed and looking at multiple factors at the same time in a single screen. So that's really fascinating to know. So, sir, on the same line, so I'll come back to Mr. Puneet Chawla of CMD Railtel. So Mr. Khurana did mention about EOffice, etc. But I would request you to give this perspective on an all India railway kind of a basis, given Railtel's kind of a mandate in the organization, of how the Indian Railways or the Ministry of Railways as a whole is looking at the digital strategy for itself, for its own internal processes, because railway is one of the largest employers of the world, and the railway family, if you kind of multiply the family members and the people who are connected, itself becomes a very large group. So the digital transformation within the Ministry of Railways itself impacts millions of lives in the country. So could you please share what kind of digital initiatives are taken within the railways to expand upon what Mr. Khurana just mentioned, but at a whole Indian railway level?
Yeah, sure. Mr. Khurana mentioned about the EOffice, that they have implemented the EOffice. We have implemented the EOffice for entire Indian Railways. Today, 1.35 lakh employees of the Indian Railways are on the EOffice platform. The manual filing is almost done away with. Of course, as he also rightly said, that COVID-19 accelerated the use. Today, there are 80 lakh receipts on the EOffice platform and about 14.5 lakh e-files on this platform, which has been created and it is being used extensively. Similarly, for the drawings, you have got big drawings spreading over full table length. Now they are all in the e-form by a platform which Indian Railways has adopted, is EDAS platform. And all these files and these are stored in our cloud, Railtel's cloud. Since for all these applications, as per the National E-Governance Plan of Government of India, the adoption of the cloud is the first term priority for this. So we have built in our Rail Cloud, in which all these files, all these drawings are fully securely placed, and the application is also in that same data centers, our data center. We have got a DC, a replica of that is DR, Another thing which Mr. Khurana again mentioned is the high definition video conference. High definition video conferencing, this service also Railtel is providing pan-Indian railways to all Indian railways. Post-COVID, the usage has increased more than 25 times. We are also now talking on the VC mode, virtual mode. And I mean, Indian Railways meetings, all the meetings, the monitoring of the projects is all done on this virtual mode today. It saves, of course, tremendous amount of manpower, man hours, which was taken to and travel to a place of the meeting or this thing. Then it saves carbon footprints. There's a tremendous reduction of carbon footprints on this. So this, I would say, is a very big contribution, both the EOffice as well as the VCs to reduction of carbon footprints. Another very important thing which we have been entrusted with, I mean, Railtel has been entrusted with, is the development of hospital management information system for the entire Indian Railways. So this thing we have already started on Northern Railway and South Central Railway. We have started this. We have developed a HMIS. Not only we have introduced the system, we have also developed a mobile app for the same. We have developed a teleconsultation app also, because this was the need of the hour. This teleconsultation app was developed just 2 months back and introduced for use by the doctors and the various patients. We have given a unique medical identity card to all our employees and pensioners also. If you see the kind of impact, there are 12 lakh, more than 12 lakh employees here, regular employees, more than 13 lakh pensioners, taking an average size of 4.5 to 5. Approximately 1 crore people will be impacted, will be benefited by these services. So Umeed card have been made for all the family members, and with that card, anybody can go and get the medical facility everywhere. And his record, again, the medical record is stored securely in the data centers and can be accessed from anywhere in the country. An employee of Northern Railway can go to the southern part of the country, and if he has a problem, he can go to that hospital and he can show to the doctor, and his records can be accessed from there. So this is, I mean, because employees too are customers. Indian Railways is taking care of its employees. This digitization of the healthcare is a I mean, it will go in big way in improving the morale of the each and every railway man.
Sure. What you say is absolutely right, sir. Recently, I was watching a YouTube video of people who are operating the oxygen trains, and the dedication, we talk about COVID warriors, but I feel that the railwaymen of our country are all actually at the forefront of the COVID warriors. And actually, the oxygen trains that have crisscrossed and brought that critical resource during the second wave has been a lifesaver for the whole country. And really, a happy employee will be a motivated employee. So it's really good to know all these initiatives that you've mentioned. So I'll just pose my last question. I think we are close coming.
I would just like to chip in here.
Sure.
Oxygen trains, of course, they were seen in a big way. But what I feel the most important part was that in the initial lockdown, when people were scared to come out of their houses, the entire railway system was running the goods trains. That was the basic supply, the basic lifeline of entire railway, of entire India. If goods train stops, then you can't even imagine the situation if supplies are not available. So I mean, this was a sort of, people could see we immediately adapted with this, immediately adapted and had trucks on the wagons, and we transported oxygen and you could see it. But if you go down back last year with the first lockdown, when lockdown was declared, railways was working. They're working fully.
You're absolutely right. In fact, it's fascinating to know that the loading of railways in the COVID year was actually higher than the previous one, which is like really fascinating. And it cannot happen unless the employees of that organization work dedicatedly around the clock. So thanks for that. So that kind of brings me to the end of my questions. So I'll kind of hand it back to Mr. Kailashnath Adhikari.
Yes.
Do you have any points and Pragya?
Yeah, thank you, Puneet sir, thank you, Khurana sir, and thank you, Lohia sir, for joining us today. And thank you, Rajaji, for moderating it so well. And we have Mr. Kailashnath Adhikari, MD Governance, now to extend his thank you to all of you.
Thank you, Pragya, and thank you to all our esteemed dignitaries and panelists who joined us. Khurana sahab, thank you so much for joining.
It was our pleasure
to see you. Yes, thank you.
Thank you for giving this opportunity.
Puneet Chawla ji, thank you so much. Such a pleasure to see you as well. Rajaji, thank you so much. And thank you so much to Lohia sir also for joining us. Thank you so much with all your cooperation, as well as all the deliberations that we do here. Is that when, Governance Now is able to, consecutively every year conduct its Railways Forum, wherein we discuss about all the aspects. And thank you so much. A deep appreciation and thanks to all of you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. And now we will move to our next panel discussion, innovations and transformation in railways. For the next session, we have Shri Lalit Chandra Trivedi, General Manager, East Central Railways. And we have Shri Ajay Gupta, Group General Manager, IT, Dedicated Freight Corridor Corporation of India Limited. We have Shri Alok Tripathi, GM Innovation, National High Speed Rail Corporation Limited. And to moderate the session, we have the pleasure of having Shri Rajaji Meshram, Railways Consultant and Expert. So while our panelists are joining,
Good afternoon, everyone.
good afternoon, Alok sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. This side Ajay Gupta.
So we're just waiting for Lalit sir, and we will start the session. We have Rajaji also around.
Do we start or we wait for?
Just another minute. I am informing him about that. Actually, we are before time. So just give me a second. Just have him in a minute. Well, you can start the introduction, so he shall be joining you.
Should start, Pragya, or would you first?
Yes, please, go ahead. Yeah, we have him here now. We have Shri Lalit Chandra Trivedi ji also, so we can begin the panel. Over to you, Rajaji.
Okay, thank you. Very good afternoon, gentlemen, and it has been I just spent the last 45 minutes having a great discussion on all the transformations in some of the leading PSUs of the railways. And now we have an exciting and esteemed panel, which again brings to us the perspective of three very dynamic organizations of the railways. And we have Mr. Ajay Gupta from DFCCIL, Mr. Alok Tripathi from the a very exciting National High Speed Railway Corporation, and of course Mr. Lalit Trivedi, who runs one of the largest railway zones of our country. So let me start with Mr. Ajay Gupta, and the reason is that we just ended our previous session on the note of railways doing exemplary work in freight, and even in a COVID year, railways has surpassed its own kind of benchmark of the previous year. So my question to you is that the dedicated freight, corridor is going to transform the way Indian Railways is going to work, and I would request you to kind of just touch upon that and how DFCCIL is going to transform the operations of the railways.
Good morning to everybody. Good afternoon to everybody, I'll say. And certainly Rajaji and e-governance, I'll say thanks to you people. In the pandemic situation, you are connecting the people, you are allowing the other people to share the best practices, you are allowing the people to keep the morale high. EFCCL is one of the organization which is one of the biggest organization in the construction area. Currently, it's a company, it's an organization of 80,000 crores. We are going to construct around 3,000 kilometer new track along the existing Indian Railways track, which will connect to my eastern part of the Delhi, eastern part of India, and the western part up to JNPT. We have already commissioned around 1,000 kilometers. We are running around 100 trains per day. Suppose you'll talk about the salient feature, I'll say it will be a game changer for Indian economy, India, and Indian Railways. We are going to run our goods train at a speed of 100 kilometers per hour. That will be a remarkable thing. Just imagine the current speed of my goods train are 23.7 kilometers per hour, and the average speed will be 70 kilometers per hour. That means at least 3 or 4 times I'll be increasing my speed, average speed. I'm running the goods train at a speed of 100 kilometers. That's equivalent to or sometimes more than the Rajdhani Express. So these are the salient features are there. We are running the trains of higher capacity, higher load, 25 metric ton, and axle load is there. We will be able to run the double container trains in the Western Corridor. We'll be able to run the long haul train, 1.5 kilometer length trains. So these are some of the salient features which will be going to be a game changer for Indian Railways.
Sure.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. No, thanks for that. I think all these are exciting things, and actually a freight train running at 100 kilometers per hour speed is something that being a railwayman myself and a mechanical engineer at that, I can really appreciate the kind of transformation that can bring. So I'll move over to Mr. L.C. Trivedi, the General Manager of East Central Railway. So, sir, when, of course, the DFC passes through your zone as well, and while it does so, currently the zone is a very important one. It passes through the populous states. So my question to you is, has he dropped off by any chance? Oh, sorry. So my question to you, sir, is that, once the DFC comes, how will it change the working of the East Central zone?
Thanks, Raja. Actually, this is going to be, as Tripathi said, real game changer, because presently we have a in the existing system of mail express trains, Rajdhani Express and goods trains, they run on the same track. So it's a mixed type of services. The first time for the Indian Railways, we will be segregating the goods traffic from the mail express traffic. And so the speed differential, which today exists on the existing routes, will disappear. This will help, and you may be aware that we are upgrading Delhi Howrah route to 160 kmph. The idea is to run overnight trains. If you run a train, goods mail express train at 160 kmph, you can cover that. A person can start from Kolkata, reach Delhi, finish his work, and come back to Kolkata. That type of ultimate scenario we are envisaging. But then it is not possible if in a system where the mail express trains and the such high-speed trains and the coal trains and mineral trains, carrying trains are running side one ahead of the other. So frequent looping and this speed. So moment DFCC comes, this speed differentials they go away. It will increase the speeds of the goods trains also. It will increase the speeds of the mail express trains also. And these new tracks of DFCC are designed for 25-ton axle load. So in a mineral-rich zone like coal zone and the iron ore area which our railway supports, the per throughput per wagon, per train, apart from the length of the train, since the axle load permitted is much higher against 21 to 25, it's almost 20% increase. So the speed into this additional volume which our wagon can carry will prove to be game changer, and we believe that this will bring down the cost of transportation drastically. As it is, we are having an edge over the road sector because we are running most of our traffic on electric traction, the rate of which has not increased, while road sector till today for major movement is commodity movement is dependent on diesel. So it's a going to be big changer, and we will bring down the cost of transportation and logistics for the industry.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Actually, it looks like a win-win situation in which you get your freight trains running at 100 kilometers per hour and you have your passenger trains running at 160 kmph. So it's strategically, it kind of will live up to all its expectations. So that brings me back to Mr. Alok Tripathi. And I think the first question that, I'm sure myself and all the audience who's listening to this conference would want to ask is about the flagship project of the Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed railway, because the project in itself has such transformational kind of a potential, and it's a dream for our country to have a train flying at that speed. So my first question to you would be, what's the status of the project? How is it going?
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Raja, for giving me this opportunity to share my views related to high-speed rail system in this country. Just now, Trivedi sir and Mr. Ajay talked about the transformation of freight business for railway once the DFCC is fully commissioned. I think so is the case with the passenger business transformation for railway once the high-speed rail system is commissioned and it start working between Mumbai and Ahmedabad. Before I talk about the project status, I think for the benefit of all the participants, let me briefly state about the key features of Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail project. This is a project of almost 500 kilometer long high-speed rail system connecting two cities, Ahmedabad and Mumbai. It will have 12 stations including Mumbai and Ahmedabad, and it will connect the major cities in the state of Gujarat and Maharashtra. Out of this 508 kilometer to be exact, 508 kilometer, almost 355 kilometer of the corridor will be in the state of Gujarat, and rest will be mostly in the state of Maharashtra, except few patches of 4 to 5 kilometer falling in Union Territory of Dadra, Nagar and Haveli. The important thing is that the operating speed for high-speed rail system in this corridor is going to be 320 kilometers per hour. So it will take around 2 hours time to reach from Ahmedabad to Mumbai. So essentially, you are going to convert your long distance travel as long distance commuting. The passenger can start their journey in the morning. They can finish their job at the other end, and then they can come back in the evening to their home. So that is the kind of benefit this project is going to give to our country. Now about the status of this project. So out of the 350 odd kilometer in the state of Gujarat, 95% of the land has already been acquired and rest are in the process of acquisition. It will happen very shortly. And out of this, the civil contracts have already been awarded for 325 kilometers. So essentially now the project is under the construction phase, at least in the state of Gujarat. Yes, we have some problem in Maharashtra where the land acquisition is not very good. It is only 24% of the land which has been acquired in Maharashtra, and that too very scattered piece of land. So you cannot actually start the civil activity in Maharashtra portion. But we are hopeful that as the work progresses in Gujarat portion, things will improve in Maharashtra also. We are in the constant discussion with the state government, and we are hopeful that this land acquisition will increase substantially.
Thanks for that. I think, it is going to be quite a game changer project. And, just to share that there is another project which is kind of building on the Mumbai-Ahmedabad, which is the Ahmedabad-Rajkot project, which is being planned at the Gujarat state, which also will kind of combine with it and make it even more transformative. So,
Yes.
okay. So now I come to Mr. L.C. Trivedi. My question to you, sir, is the very unique positioning of East Central Railway, that it kind of it covers the India-Nepal border. So again, the kind of transformation that inter-country trade can bring is also something that is has a very significant economic stimulus. So I would, my question to you is that from an India-Nepal cross-border trade perspective, what are the initiatives and transformative projects that are happening in the East Central Railway?
Thank you, Raja. Actually, just to give you a perspective, that the long-term plan was actually to build a railway line from Hanoi in Vietnam to Istanbul in Turkey, connecting Asia with Europe, similar to the parallel to the road and that Belt and Road project of Chinese Railways. Indian Railway has also that long-term thing in mind, and this Nepal project will be subset of the big set of that system. The idea is initially to connect SAARC countries because Bangladesh is already connected. So, like if Nepal wants to trade with Dhaka, Nepal goods can go directly to Dhaka rather than going via circuitous route. Similarly, Myanmar and all these things are ultimately there on the anvil. Presently, we are concentrating on Raxaul, Kathmandu. Raxaul is in Bihar. Kathmandu is capital of Nepal. The preliminary survey is over, and now final locational survey is going on. The agency has been appointed by Konkan Railway Corporations, to whom we have awarded the contract. The second step was from Jayanagar in Bihar to Badribas in Nepal, which also has on its en route Janak temple, the famous temple of Sita Ma's birthplace, the king of Janak. And there is a third place also, which is not which is just in the neighborhood of ECR, that is from Jogbani to Biratnagar. Actually, at Biratnagar and at the Raxaul near IDBR, we call it, there are international the dry port type of facilities, container freight stations, from where the Nepalese goods can be directly sent to Indian ports, or maybe and later on even to Chitgaon and other Bangladeshi ports also, or to Bombay port. This line from Jayanagar to Badribas is already operational for experimental basis. I have gone on that line, and our goods trains, like carrying material trains for the construction of the track, are already plying on this section. Some statutory clearances from Nepalese government and from Ministry of External Affairs are at the final stages. So once they are through, we will be able to run these trains on Jayanagar Badribas section anytime. Raxaul Kathmandu, the final location survey is likely to be completed soon, and that will be followed by the construction of the actual railway line, which may take a couple of years. But one thing is there, we have to be moved really very fast in this section, because Chinese railways are also building network in Nepal. So our goal is to finish our project. Incidentally, just for the information of the listeners, the Indian system is broad gauge, while in the same country, Chinese railways are making a standard gauge network. So the work is on, and hopefully, and once this is connected, Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal, will be connected to major Indian cities, major Indian ports. Similarly, all the Jogbani is the industrial area of Nepal. So and a lot of persons of Indian origin. You see, when you cross the Nepalese border, you just can't distinguish between the people living on the either side of the border. They look same, they speak the same language. So there is a lot of fraternity and marital relationships across the border. So it will boost not only the industry but also the person-to-person contact between the populace of two countries.
Sure, thank you, sir. Actually, that I've been working with the Asian Development Bank on the the Look East policy, and the India and its trade to the neighboring countries is actually enabled a lot, can be enabled a lot by railway connectivity, and it's very exciting to know the projects that are happening between India and Nepal. So I'll come to Mr. Ajay Gupta. So the question that I have for you is that while DFCCIL does have this transformative impact on the freight operations in the railways, I want to understand what are the digital initiatives that are happening within DFCCIL, especially in this COVID pandemic, and what are the strategies that you are adopting to kind of change the work of working with a new digital strategy.
DFCCIL is an organization with a lean manpower. That's one of the key factors of DFCCIL. And to enable the users, I think IT is one of the greatest enabler to connect them, to facilitate, to help them to perform their activity with the least minimum resources. We have implemented SAP system at DFCCIL, which is providing all the financial, HR, project system. Those modules have been implemented at DFCCIL, and with the help of the ERP system, we can run the system. Second initiative, you can say that we have framed many dashboard. Let's say in-house team is there on the .NET platform. We have developed the dashboard. We have connected to eDrishti, Honorable Prime Minister's and a dashboard, MR's dashboard. Those dashboards are connected and we are monitoring our progress through that particular dashboard. SMS, email, these things are there which are prompting to act fast, to react the things and to resolve the issues. Many things we have brought on the digital network. Most of the activities are on our digital network. Maybe monitoring through the processes or from the alert kind of thing. So these are the few initiatives we have taken. We are keep on adding the things. We are going for the big data analysis. We are having data available from the field as well as from SAP. We are processing it and analyzing the things, so that we can reach to the predictability level. That's our aim. We want to make the system fully automated and to predict what could be the failure. That's our aim.
Sure, thanks for that. We heard about IoT in the previous session, and it's exciting to know that an absolutely spanking new system like DFCCIL is also looking at predictive maintenance, which again will be a huge game changer in better utilization of railway assets. So I'll come to Mr. Alok Tripathi. So sir, you mentioned about the Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed railway project. But the question that comes to mind is that, is this going to be a one-off project in our country? Is this that only the citizens of Gujarat and Maharashtra will enjoy this, or what's the plan for the whole country?
This is not the only project which is going to come up in our country. In fact, this is the sanctioned project as of now. But then there is a thinking about development of many more corridors across the country where we are going to have high-speed rail system. The thinking started, in fact, in 2007 itself. And now there are two important points in this regard which I would like to highlight here. One is that recently the Ministry of Railway has published a national rail plan where they have given about the vision of Indian Railway for next 30 years. And the provision of high-speed rail system in this country has been given a good amount of emphasis in that particular plan. In fact, as per the National Rail Plan, they have proposed to have a network of around 8,000 kilometers of high-speed rail system in country by 2051. So in next 30 years, they are proposing to have 8,000 kilometers of network in the identified corridors. So they have identified few corridors based on certain criteria like population, economic growth, and other things. And of course, these corridors are to be developed in phases. But even before this National Rail Plan was published, Ministry of Railway had already identified 7 corridors across the country where the NHSRCL has been entrusted to study and submit the detailed project report about the development of high-speed rail system. So if you see those corridors, for example, one corridor is Delhi-Varanasi, and then the second corridor is Varanasi-Howrah. So then you will have end-to-end connectivity from Delhi to Kolkata, connecting two metropolitan cities. Similarly, you have Delhi-Ahmedabad, which gets integrated with the Mumbai-Ahmedabad, the current project. So another 2 metropolitan cities will get connected right from Delhi to Mumbai. And then you have in Mumbai 2 corridors coming out of the Mumbai. One is Mumbai-Nagpur and another is Mumbai-Hyderabad. Those will also get interconnected. So essentially your connectivity right from Delhi to, it will improve from Delhi to Hyderabad, Delhi to Nagpur. Then in north, you are going to have a high-speed rail system up to Amritsar. And in south, you are going to have a system from Chennai to Bangalore to Mysuru. So the planning is there, and we are developing the detailed project report for these corridors. For Delhi-Varanasi, we have already completed the exercise. For rest, we are already developing the DPRs. In next 1 year time, we will be submitting our reports. And if the government decides to have high-speed rail system in all these corridors, then you will have a good level of high-speed rail network across the country.
And thanks for that. I think, of course, these projects are very large and they are capital intensive. But I think I am of the personal belief that a country of the size of India, will require a very high-speed railway network, given the density, the size of our country. Just to emulate the way the high-speed railway network has kind of enhanced in China, I think it will be a move in the right direction to have good high-speed railway networks across the country. So thanks for sharing that. So
yeah, just to give a perspective about China versus India. So China started their thinking in 2005. And by now they are already having a 35,000 kilometer of high-speed network, which is more than 50% of the total high-speed network across the globe.
Sure. Yeah, that's definitely there. And it's definitely a task that is there in front of us, and it will make a transformational change in our country. So now I'll come to Mr. L.C. Trivedi, the general manager. So sir, in the previous, we had the good fortune of having the CMD of Railtel, and he was sharing the various initiatives that is being happening inside the railways for various digital strategies. So as a user of that, I mean, he was kind of sharing it more as an agency which was kind of implementing that across the railways. But as a person who is using that, and I want to know your perspective of how using more and more of these digital tools in a traditional organization like railways has changed. And is this change here to stay, or is it that once the pandemic goes away, it will go back to the earlier way of working? So if you can share a bit of your experience and perspective.
Well said. Actually, the transformation changes are so fast and so permanent in nature. People have almost forgotten files. I think they will not be able to locate a file if I want them to produce a physical file now. It started with the pandemic, sure. The scare was there that the file touched by some person carrying coronavirus, if the same file moves to the other desk, it may spread the corona. Some stories were there in the media. So it acted as a catalyst, and people were really scared to get into the digital system. And it happened so fast. And You know, in railways, when we make an application for any new section opening to CRS, Commissioner of Railway Safety, or we make a speed certificate for running a new train, anything you do, it requires, in any drawing, it requires signatures of, sometimes the number of signatures on single page goes up to 22, 25. And then only a drawing gets finalized, because every domain holder certifies his portion of the work. And it was such a difficult exercise to move across the cities. These files, these drawings used to come from division to headquarter to construction offices. It was a massive job. This e-office transformation has virtually made it child's play. Now the file comes to my table from Dhanbad. After going to the divisional offices, the field offices of Singrauli, Patratu, Barkakhana, people, engineers, field engineers located at these places, they sign the drawing, certify the field conditions. Then it comes to DRM's office. From DRM's office comes to construction office. From construction office, it was such an elaborate exercise that everything would be mired in delays and all the red tapeism, and the projects would simply not move. Plus, then as Ajay said, that the dashboard system of railways. Now, every day, how much money I spent yesterday on a cumulative basis comes on the portal. How much revenues I have earned through scrap sale, through passenger business, through parcel business, through freight business, it is accumulated on a day-to-day basis. And then this ease of doing meetings by way of video conferencing. Earlier, getting to call a meeting, to fix a date for the meeting was a Herculean task, because somebody would be busy someday, some other people would be busy. And pandemic or no pandemic, it would be difficult for people to come to a central place at the same time from different corners of the country or from different corners of a big zonal railways like East Central Railway. Today, you just don't need to move out of your house or your office, your location, and you get hooked onto the VC. Like today, we are sitting 4 persons at different places, and I didn't have to. Suppose if you would have asked for me the same conference, that inviting me to Delhi, I might not have come. Pandemic or no pandemic, depending on my other schedules. Because now today I have to only carve out a time slot of 45 minutes to attend this conference. Had it been the previous era, I would have spent at least one day on this attending this conference at the micro level, at the grassroots level. Even our supervisors are holding this meetings, the tender committee meetings, the procurement meetings, the accident inquiry committee meetings, the selection process. When the candidates are sitting, if you had to conduct some selections, candidates had to be called from the field to appear for the interview. Now he attends the interview for 1 hour or half an hour, and then he starts running the train again. If he was a CNW TXR, he starts examining the train again. So the leave process, which had to be given to an employee for attending to a selection process or a training process. Most of our during pandemic, we ran our training classes on video. All our now training schools are equipped with necessary equipments to impart training remotely. And that has saved us the manpower, because the transit toss of the manpower for attending and reaching back to the head office was a phenomenal. Similarly, the procurement decisions are getting taken fast, because there is no need, it is so easy to ensure availability of all the 3 participants of tender committee. And there are many such situations, because in railways, it's a system that works, and many stakeholders, they have to sit together, they have to go through the whole thing, and all these processes are taking, and this has also brought down drastically our expenditure, because about 4 to 5% of railways force was simply employed in taking the files, taking the drawings from field to head office to one chamber to other chamber. All that is now history past, and now whether the pandemic stays or whether the pandemic goes away, these systems are there to stay here. They are permanent in nature. And one more thing, earlier you could say no to a file. Suppose a finance officer doesn't want to accept a file on Friday, saying that Saturday, Sunday, then the file will be logged against me for 2-3 days. So he could say, no, I will not receive the file. Now in e-office system, I don't have to care for his acceptance of the file. I simply push the file into his tray on the e-office, and he has it. He cannot say no. And Saturdays, in fact, as much work is done on Saturdays and Sundays as is done on weekdays. And plus 10 to 5 is not the norm now. The norm is 24 into 7. So it has made the digital governance, digital initiatives have made the organization so productive. I just can't, a person who has not worked in this era, he would, right now on my table, there is not a single file because all the files are inside the computer. So this transformation is everlasting, and it has in the times to come, we will all see the productivity gains made by IR on this account.
That's fantastic to know, sir. Actually, I can kind of really empathize and appreciate the point that you're making, because I think, as you rightly said, just having meetings across the country, across the globe becomes so easy, and the pandemic has kind of hastened that, and it really brings in a lot of efficiency. So thanks for sharing all of that with us. So that brings me to Mr. Alok Tripathi. So the question, of course, you explained about the current project, what the future scenario is. But what I want to understand is that the high-speed railway project itself is, in terms of technology, something that India has not seen before. And therefore, it will require a lot of innovation that needs to happen on the ground. So specifically on this topic of innovation, what's happening in the National High-Speed Railway Corporation?
Okay, so one of the major concern about the high-speed rail projects, which you just mentioned also, was the high capital cost. And we know that if you see the technology part of high-speed rail system, you will find broadly there are three groups of technology provider. One is the Japanese technology, which we are going to implement in case of Mumbai Ahmedabad this high-speed rail project. Then you have European technology, and now China has developed its own technology also. We don't have any such technology. So as of now, we are dependent on importing the high-speed rail technology, keeping the concern about the high capital cost of the project, and also to have our self-dependency in future. The corporation has created a high-speed rail innovation center, which is basically a trust. And the idea was to undertake research and development in the field of high-speed rail technology using our indigenous technical capabilities. So the idea is that the projects which will be taken up by this trust will help us in indigenizing the various aspects of high-speed rail technology, which will bring down the cost of the technology. But these are the direct advantage. The indirect advantage would be that it will also help in creating a research and development environment in our country by collaborating with several academic institutes, and also to generate a kind of pool of researchers and experts in the area of high-speed rail system. So we are collaborating with several IITs, all major IITs, IIT Delhi, Bombay, Chennai, Kharagpur, Roorkee, ISC Bangalore also, and we are collaborating with these institutes. We have identified a few projects in the area of electrical technology or civil engineering technology or material related issues, which are all related to high-speed rail system. And we have given the projects to these institutes to do the research and development, and the outcome of such research and development is going to be certain indigenization of certain aspect of the high-speed rail technology. This is one aspect. The second aspect is, once we are having confidence of developing the technology which we have imported from outside, maybe we'll also be able to improvise those technologies. We'll innovate ourselves suiting to our conditions. So this is the kind of first initiative the NHSRCL has taken up. The trust is having an advisory council, and that consists of directors of all the major IITs, I would say. And whenever we conduct this meeting, all the directors of IITs, they are all present. And the idea is that this advisory council is going to guide us the direction of research and development. So that is the kind of initiative as of now we have taken.
Sure. I think that's definitely the step in the right direction, because you need to have a very structured mechanism to kind of unleash the innovation that this very high technology project unleashes. And it's very exciting to know that you have tie-ups with academic institutions, which will kind of institutionalize this entire innovation program. So thanks for that. So that brings me to Mr. Ajay Gupta. So my question to you is that, the DFCCIL is a 3,000 kilometer kind of a project, which kind of spans the entire North India. And there is a thought process of bringing in private trains, bringing, as you shared, a lot of innovative freight operations into the DFCCIL. So, I've recently understood about this wayside detection equipment, etc. So is there also something that is being thought of at the DFCCIL?
That's true that we'll be going to install n number of instruments, sensor, equipments to sense the thing or to get the feed from the way stations. This is the requirement. I don't have so much manpower who can monitor the parameters. So this is my requirement, that I should get the feed on that particular aspect, maybe hot axle, maybe any kind of things which we want to monitor the things. Then there will be some kind of a central place will be there from where we'll have the predictability. We have the sensor, we have the latest and players with the Alstom is there. A lot of latest, or the, you can say, state of art technology is available. They are supporting us and suggesting what we can do or how we can utilize these equipments to improve our working, to keep our manpower as lean as possible, to reduce the maintenance cost. If we can have the equipment which can send the alarm, it's going to fail, I think this is the best thing we want. So we are working on that. Yes, somewhere we have implemented, something is going on. We are working, planning, and thinking about that.
Sure, thanks. There's one thing that you had mentioned earlier, which I wanted to kind of ask about, is the, about the ERP system that that is prevalent in DFCCIL, because the railways has developed revolutionary IT solutions in-house. I mean, the entire passenger reservation system, I remember way back, when IT and internet, etc., was not so prevalent in our country, you could still go to a counter and book a train ticket from any point in India to any point. So Indian Railways has always been at the forefront of all these kind of computerization and IT solutions implementation. But the experience of an ERP, which, because the railway operation is so different, off-the-shelf products, etc., how do they adapt? And since you are going through this experience, could you share a little bit about your experience on ERP?
When we started our company, we decided we'll go for SAP system. It's an ERP system. It's a state of an art. And subsequently, we are moving with SAP to implement few of the modules. But yes, certain thinking or rethinking are there. Actually, we are getting the same value for money what we are spending. What is the cost of a proprietary art and software? These are the few things are there. And second thing is that, what is the best ERP? Are we getting the maximum utilization of the offered product? As we know, we all are using MS Office. Word we are using, but we are utilizing only the 8% or 9% of the total utilities. The question is that, can we utilize its complete potential? Then only we'll be able to run, or we can say, yes, we are working with the full potential, and it will be an important tool for our transformation. SAP is supporting us. Yes, it is working. But still, what we are doing is that, let's have a SAP as a core product and develop the third-party solution, maybe a .NET solution, pull the data, do the analytics in some other platforms, and represent the things which will be more GUI-based, which is more predictive, which is more easy to understand, which is available on the web-based system. So I think it's a combination where SAP is there, and we have built the peripheral on the other platform.
Sure. Thanks a lot. So I have kind of completed my list of questions, and thanks for answering all of them so wonderfully well. There's one question that I see on the chat box, and I'll just pose it to all the panelists, whoever can answer that. The question being asked is that for the goods trains to run at 100 kmph in the DFCCIL, will there be a special requirement for wagons, or the existing wagons itself can run on that? So it's an open question. So
this exists. I will because we are running this 100 kmph, so it is possible to run our box and HL wagon is capable of running at 100 kmph, and the track in fact it's capable of holding 25 ton axle load, while our existing box wagons are only 21 ton axle load. So whatever requirements are the main thing for running a train at 100 kmph is the two things are the propulsion traction and the coupling forces. So our couplers which are there for connect from wagon to wagon, couplers are capable of holding that braking force and the traction force required for running a train at 100 kmph. Plus we need to have right combination of the locomotives at the head of the train, like a WG9 multi or a WG12 loco. They are capable of running. In fact, empty trains, most of the times we run at 100 kmph already, as Alok, Ajay said in the beginning. They are running trains at because on DFCC they are getting the line. There is no line clear problem, so they have been for many days running trains at 100 kmph with the same stock, which has been handed over to them by Indian Railways.
Sure. Thanks a lot for that answer. That was quite comprehensive. So that kind of brings us to the end of this session, and it has been wonderful, having a discussion with all of you. So I'll hand it back to Pragya now.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And it was indeed a very elaborated and detailed discussion. And you have all have answered and given your insights really well. And you have taken the audience questions as well. So thank you once again. Thank you, Alok sir. Thank you, Ajay sir. Thank you, Lalit sir. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And with this, thank you, everyone. Thank you, our dear attendees, for joining us today. And with this, we are just marking the closure of our second Railtech Virtual Summit. And hopefully, next year, we would be able to meet on ground as well, live with each other. Thank you and take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.